So I will be showing a brief tutorial of the dress I made for Paulette. The main fabric I used for the body is made of 64% hemp, 28% organic cotton, and 8% lycra. I upcycled my own top that I wasn't wearing to make sleeves. And I found this beautiful embroidery on Etsy. There are a lot of small businesses on the website and I wanted to support them. So my first step is draping. I used some stretchy fabric to drape the shape because the actual fabric we are using for the garment stretches too. For the draping, it's important to use a similar fabric to what you are actually using for the garment. For example, if the real fabric is going to be woven, you might want to use muslin to drape the shape. The next step is to trace the draped fabric onto the paper to create the pattern pieces. After making the pattern pieces, I dye the fabric. It's important to test with small swatches before you dye the large pieces of fabric. Here are some tests I did. The number 1 is dyed with onion skin, and number 2 was the mixture of onion skin and turmeric. And number 3 was turmeric by itself. Paulette and I liked number 2, although she expected a little lighter than number 2, so I did another test. The one on the left side in the picture sat in the dye water for 5 minutes, and the one on the right side sat in the dye water for 30 minutes. She liked the lighter one, so we decided to go with the lighter one. So it's time to dye the fabric. Although it's hard to dye big pieces of fabric in the bucket, so I cut the fabric a little bigger than pattern pieces, just about 1 inch bigger all around. The reason I cut it bigger than pattern pieces is that usually the fabric shrinks as you dye, so it's better to have some room for the shrinkage. So the dye water you can see in the bucket is half onion skin and half turmeric. Again, it's important to test with the fabric you're going to use to see the color you want to achieve. As you can see, I'm squeezing the fabric as I dye because I wanted to dye it evenly. I think the color turned out beautiful. It was slightly darker than what we wanted, but it will get faded out as we wash it, so it's going to be a little lighter color. After dyeing the fabric, I cut the fabric into the pattern shapes. I stitched and overlocked the shoulder seams and side seams. I clean finished the slit and applied the facing at the neck to make it clean. Here I'm pinning the embroidery on the dress form. The yellow fabric wanted to grow, but the embroidery didn't grow. So if there are two different materials react differently, it's better to work on it on the dress form. After pinning the embroidery, I stitch them down. I noticed that the fabric of the sleeves frays easily while I was cutting, so I decided to add embroidery to the sleeve openings too. For the hem, I used cover stitch. It's better to use cover stitch for stretchy fabric because the thread of the cover stitch stretches as the fabric stretches. In other words, the thread doesn't break when the fabric stretches. Hi guys, it's Takako. I hope some of the techniques I used were helpful when you create something in the future. I was happy and excited the whole time when I was creating the garment because using sustainable materials has been a goal of mine. Also, I was able to imagine my friend Paulette being in one-of-a-kind dress that was very special. There are a lot of sustainable materials out there, So I'd like to introduce as many as possible on this channel. If you haven't watched how Paulette and I decided the design, please watch episode 1, 2, and 3. I'd like to thank Paulette for collaborating with me and being my first guest. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.